got 25 minutes. We got to go.
Hey!
Welcome back. Welcome back. She's back. Happy Wednesday, everyone.
And then we'll see the camel across the screen.
Just so you guys know, Janelle just proposed getting an actual camel and putting this bad boy on a stick and just having it go across the screen because the budget's not accounting for our digital camera. So send your donations in. I cannot watch this woman put a camel on a stick across the screen. But I digress. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome, Say That Nation. It is going to be an amazing day today. Welcome back, Janelle.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'm so happy to be back as the co-host with you, Winston. This is one of my joys. I love being here with you and all the other entrepreneurs who are following us and watching us. And so if this is your first time with us, welcome. We're super excited to have you with us. We love talking to entrepreneurs about the ugly come up, right? So you know how people have we love the success stories where people start from nothing and then have massive success. But what happens in the middle? What happens during that ugly come up? And so that's what we're here to talk about. We're unapologetic and how real we get with ourselves, with each other, and also with our guests.
Yes.
And so we love having our guests come on. We're super thankful for that. And we have an amazing guest with us today as well. Now, you will notice that we will go ahead and get into the meat of everything that we have to offer and to say and the advice that we have to give. And then we'll just run out of time because we've only got 25 minutes to answer this. 25 minutes, people. It goes by really fast. And if you want to hear any more of the conversation, then you got to head over to Patreon. All of our community members on Patreon will have access to all of our overtime with our guests. And so we're super excited. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to have a guest. And so also know that we're going to go into overtime today. I'm really, really, really pumped.
Yeah, no, today's definitely going to be a good one. And if you're not sure what Janelle's referring to in terms of overtime, last week we did an overview of what some of our overtime segments look like, some of the deep discussions that our guests go into. So definitely go check out last week's episode if you want to have a better idea about that. But let's get into today's meat and gravy. Janelle, give me that drum roll and let's get this question going. All right, guys, today's question is...
How to know when to throw in the towel?
Say what?
This is a really great question because sometimes, they tell you just keep going. All right. So we are not going to be the only ones answering this question. As I mentioned earlier, we have a guest and I am super excited to bring him to you guys. He is a father, a husband, and he is a mentor to many entrepreneurs. I've heard him speak in front of a room. He has such a commanding presence. And one of the things that I love about him the most is his calm demeanor. I mean, this is the guy who's going to get you through the storm, right? Yeah, that's him. Yeah. Everybody, please help me welcome William Clanton.
Our next guest. Man, I love that. Welcome, Will.
Oh man, thank you so much, man. I'm loving what you guys are doing. Thanks for just having me on the show. Janelle, that intro was fabulous.
I guess I think I'm in the club.
Exactly, the club. Ooh, we can talk about that. Why some entrepreneurs throwing the towel in the club.
Well, we're really excited to have you on. You're seeing the welcomes come in from our audience. We're really excited to have you. So for those who don't know you, please tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us how you became an entrepreneur. What was that path like for you to where you are right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I keep it short because we want to get into the meat of things. But
yes.
Just, when I was 16, I was bored out of my mind. This doesn't happen anymore. Now there's electronic tax filing. For some reason, one of those books from the IRS was in my house. I was totally desperate. I was looking for a victim to do their tax return. I took that book. I did my mom's tax return. She totally broke my heart that year, scarred me. I'm still scarred from that, from life from now. I did that tax return by hand, And Winston, she didn't believe that her 16-year-old son got her tax return right. So what did she do? She went to the same taxpayer she went to every year. when she came home, her 16-year-old son calculated the same refund that she paid that tax preparer for. So that's how it kind of got started in the line of business that I'm doing today.
Wow.
That's amazing. I never knew that story.
You didn't know that story. We need to hang out more, Janelle.
Of all the books you think somebody would pick up at 16, that is certainly not the one that.
No.
And my mom does taxes, and she has old things all over the place. My sister helps her with that, but I certainly would not. That is not the side of the family I gravitated to. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So that's super helpful. And knowing like how you got into accounting and becoming a CPA. I'm curious, when did you decide that you wanted to take on helping other entrepreneurs?
I think it was, I worked for a firm that was 15 in a nation, and I was doing an audit, and I was falling asleep on the job. I was bored out of my mind. I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing here? And I knew there was more to life than auditing books and records for corporate clients. And for me, it was like I just had this passion that, I didn't want to just do accounting, but I wanted to help business owners manage that business and grow it from the ground up. So I got an opportunity, which just was amazing for me that I couldn't turn up. One of the clients I was working with at that time was like, hey, you know what? Why don't you just quit your job, come work for me? I'll pay your salary that your firm is actually paying you, and you only need to work 1 day a week. Wow. So that started the entrepreneur journey for me. That client started at zero. This year, they crossed over the $30 million mark.
Wow.
Still a client today.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So that was the start of the journey and the excitement of, and then everything in between of what went right, what went wrong.
So it wasn't necessarily that you were looking to strike out on your own, but the opportunity just presented itself and you jumped on it.
The opportunity was like there in my face, and I had to make a decision. Like, hey, there were some things that was happening at my firm also at that time where I knew there was no more opportunity there for me. And it was like, hey, this opportunity presented myself. Let me actually walk out, step out, and move this forward.
Whoa.
That is super interesting. Well, I'm so glad that they continue to have success as you continue with yours and your own business. And so here you are now working with several other people. You have lots of different clients. Let's get into this question. Like, what have you learned with working with other people? Have you ever had to tell someone like, yeah, I think this is it, bro? Like, or ma'am, like, we're done. Like, how do you know when to throw in the towel?
Yeah. So let's talk it from my standpoint, right?
Yeah.
You heard my beginning sass, but the part that you don't know about that story, that one client that I had, I was working for them. And then I didn't know how to get another client, right? So it was my only client. So Janelle, this is personal to me because I threw in the towel. I went looking for a job after that because there were some things that I actually wasn't prepared for that no one taught me. I had the technical know-how, but the business know-how I didn't have. And there's this part that I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss. And if we can get specific for a second, because when we talk about entrepreneurs, let's talk about it from a small business standpoint. And when I say small business, let's talk about newbie Nate, right? Newbie Nate just started out, got a side hustle, right? And the way I want to frame it in that context, I think there's some issues that newbie Nate has, or 20 years ago, I'm going to call him Will, that he didn't know he had until he went into entrepreneurship. And I think if you're going to actually grow a business or transform a business, you need to transform your life. And I think most business problems are life problems. And I had a bunch of these life problems that was actually going on, right? So for me, I threw in the towel because I actually didn't have boundaries.
Okay.
I didn't have routines.
Yeah.
And my life was kind of a hot mess. Right? And I think at the first stage of this thing with entrepreneurs about not having focus And for me, I wasn't living on purpose. I was out of focus. I was out of alignment, right? And
Mm.
I think at that point in time, I was looking more to not really build a business, and I was more attempting to ejaculate, right? And what do I mean by that? I was actually really looking, and I was in the wrong place out of context. What woman can I push up on?
Wow.
And my focus, right? And this is things they don't talk about. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You may want to close your ears a little bit. All the women on the call may want to close your ears. Listen, let me talk to you for a second, brother. Because I think what we tend to have these urges, and no one tells us how to actually transmute that to being creative.
Business,
And
yeah.
we try to do practical, or we try to be physical to get a release. And that takes so many problems all by itself that
Yeah.
we don't got enough time, the context to really deal with that. But it was a struggle. Why? Because it was a personal life issue that I brought in to the
To your
business.
business, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think when in our circles, how you do anything is how you do everything is the way that usually I guess defines itself. Can you talk? Because again, what you're sharing is definitely what I mean, the inception of this show came about with Janelle and I saying we really want to have honest conversations with people who their desire to strike out on their own is a genuine one, but we're not taught a lot of these things in school. That's not a subject you're getting in, even from business schools. They're not necessarily getting into a lot of those things because they're giving you the X's and the O's, but the mindset and even some of the personal things that we need to address within ourselves before we go out. And quickly, I remember just in the field I was in personal training, you're inundated with a lot of people in a very physical, I guess, atmosphere. And I remember a lot of trainers who, and I would say is, you don't shit where you eat, that kind of a vibe, that would be more focused on what they could get away with female clients, not realizing that when that relationship doesn't work out the way you want, you're affecting your finances,
Yeah.
and it affects the way you show up here, because these people talk. So these people are going to their office. We train in a corporate environment, and these people are going back to their office saying this person did this, and that kind of thing spreads in an office. All of a sudden, no one wants to work with you. So can you honestly go into a little bit about, if you're open to it, what maybe some missteps you found yourself in, and what did you do to kind of get yourself back on track, or to again to be where you are today?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. When you talk about, the missteps of it, I think what tends to happen, we step out on something, we do
Mm.
something, and then we attempt to hide it.
Yeah.
And by hiding it, I'm actually covering that thing up, right? But the impact of that affected all areas of my life, right? Affected my marriage, affected what was going on in my business life, right? Affected the results I can get from my clients because I'm distracted. I
Yeah.
got this issue that I'm dealing with, right? And here's the other thing: I didn't have a community to share this with. So now, being a business owner and say that, hey, I need to hold this, and I got no one I can confide in, was eating me up. So it was like, hey, I got this issue that I'm dealing with that's personal to me in nature. Um, and I don't really know how to get out of it, and I need help. And you
Mm.
got nobody to call, and afraid to ask for help from someone else because being so embarrassed about your situation, or at least me, right? Being
Mm.
so embarrassed about my situation. So it was like, hey, I'm trapped in this thing, right? It wasn't until, which I'm so grateful for, that it came out that I was able to get a release.
Okay.
But if I never got exposed, I probably would still be in that situation. Right? So that exposure, and then I began to look back and reflect, right? What was going on with me? What was happening to me internally? I was looking for something external to complete me.
Mm.
And because I was looking for that, I lost my way and almost lost everything.
Wow.
Right. And I think that's what happens sometimes. Sometimes we're in business and we're in business for the wrong reasons. We're in business because we want business to validate us and say that, hey, we are worthy, or we made it, or that we are a success. And until we tap into our alignment to say, you know what, I'm doing this because it has a purpose to my life, we go off track. So we let these urges, and for me, it was that. But I think for some people, it can be alcohol, right? Some
Mm.
people, it could be narcotics, you know what I mean? Um, and those things tend to help us cope, but they derail us and take us spinning down the road that there's many who haven't gotten up from it.
Yeah.
And they don't have the community to talk about this. So they hide it and they go along. There's so many out there that's hiding it that the business can be so much further, but they can't progress because it is these personal things in their life that's hurting them and not allowing them to go to the next level of success.
Are you able to see that as a CPA? Is that something where on like the numbers make sense that you're like this should be doing well? So what's going on? Does that come up in?
That is such a great question, because I think what people don't understand, the numbers say one thing, but when
Yeah.
I begin to have conversations with the client about the numbers, you begin to unveil other things of what's happening and what's coming up,
Wow.
right? So for some people, you can tell, have a conversation about the numbers, and maybe it's not a sexual thing, but maybe it's fear.
Okay.
You begin to have a conversation with them and you begin to understand that they got bad habits.
Mm.
And these things are personal issues that they carried into the business and they're not getting a result.
Wow. Man, this got deep.
I
No, because I'm sitting here thinking there's some we talk to so many people that are on here, and it sometimes it does seem like it's my prices aren't this and this isn't, things that seemingly can be fixed, and not that this obviously can't be rectified. You said just being honest with yourself is the first step, it seems, to get you back on track. But it seems like if you're not even aware, because you were aware that, or were you aware that this was the thing hindering you?
So I'm aware when I look back and reflect now, right?
Okay.
There's a difference. When I was in it, I knew there was an issue. Did I understand the impact? No, I only understand the impact now because I see how I'm scaling versus where I was before.
Wow.
So when I now make the comparison of, okay, where's the business at now and the success I have versus what I was doing then, I was like a child, man. That was like child's play. And it's like, hey, now I'm seeing the stage of, okay, I can look back and see the level of maturity that I've grown from. And that's the only way I can really reflect on it now and see before and after.
So would you say that period to I guess to formally answer the question, would you say throwing in the towel was a good thing
I
for
think
you, like having that experience?
I think throwing in the towel was the best thing
Wow.
because it created this scaffolding for me, right?
I jumped
It
off.
created
Wow.
this period for me to help that entrepreneur who's dealing with that
Yeah.
and can't tell somebody. So when I get on a call and we're talking about numbers, it ain't about the numbers. It's about the relationship with your wife. It ain't about the numbers. It's about your wife telling you go get a job because you ain't doing what you need to do, right? These are the things that we don't see that come up in business that's happening behind the scenes, but we can't talk about it because we don't want to look like a failure.
Yeah.
I don't believe that people are scared to fail. They just don't want to look like a failure.
Yeah.
So what do I need to do to hide that and be in pride so I can look like to the world I'm successful?
I gotta sit here on that one. That's good stuff, man.
This
Right.
is, yeah.
It's the
That's really good.
personal things. I don't think people don't grow a business because they don't know a tactic, right? Like It's a number game. How many leads you have? What's your conversion rate? You can work on those things. But when I'm feeling like, oh my goodness, I'm afraid to ask for money because in my household, when I grew up, I grew up in subsidized housing, and I was kind of internally scarred because when my mother made more money, the rent went up and that meant paying for my house. So now I'm going to business and I want to make more money and I feel that same pain. So
Oh.
my subconscious mind is playing tricks on me because I'm like, yo, I'm not asking for this money because if I do, I equate that to pain. And why do I want to feel pain? And that's what I've dealt with for my life, being in this mindset of poverty.
Yeah.
And those things, play tricks on you. And if you're not aware of those, like you're like, oh my goodness, you think you're not making it happen because one thing, but it's this subconscious mind that's telling you don't do that because it's trying to protect you from that pain.
Yeah.
Man, if you are getting value out of this, drop a V in the comments, some fire emojis.
This is really good because it does touch on things. Again, this is where I was saying it. These aren't things, and not that I put this on the schools, but this is not even something, I don't even know how they would begin to address this kind of things because everyone's household is it's unique in itself, right? So how do you even know to go to, young Will and be like, so what's going on at home? You know what I mean? Like, and how, because, your mom's, it seems like, was your dad around or?
My dad wasn't in my life until later on in life.
Okay. So yeah, it's like, how do I even know to come and have that conversation with you when I have other kids that are here as well that would need that attention? You're just kind of going through the, man. Good stuff.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing, it's the personal stories. That's just my story.
Yeah.
But other people, they got their own things that are personal that they're dealing with, and it is impacting the business. And that's why most businesses don't make over 30,000. It has nothing to do with strategy, has nothing to do with tactics. That's why I think this stage, which I call it stage 1, is very important because if you could break through this stage, oh my goodness, there's so much more that you can grow and develop. The next level of entrepreneurs are out there, but it's these personal things that we didn't deal with, that we didn't address, that happened to us. And some of us, it wasn't even our fault, but we found ourselves in situations and we don't know how to actually talk to people and get free and get a release.
Yeah. Self-work, gotta do the work.
Oh, man. All right. If you guys have questions, please put them in the comments.
Yeah, I know.
Vincent and I will keep going. But especially because we only have a few minutes left. So if you want your questions answered, you guys say it now.
No, seriously. And guys, while you guys are doing that, thank you for bringing that up, Janelle. We just want to make sure that you guys do know how to connect with Will offline. So I'm going to throw up his Instagram.
Yeah.
And I want to share. So that's him, Clanton Williams. And
he's a real person. You can find him. He'll respond to you.
Throw up his IG for you guys to connect. Any questions that you guys have, we will take it into overtime if we do not have time on this platform. So here's his Insta. And I want to make sure that you guys have his website that he actually gave us before as well. And there's his website. So, Will, aside from the CPA work, and I know we'll throw up more questions, where do you find the work that you do with entrepreneurs now? What if someone wants to connect with you and reach out to you? Where do you find that you offer the most value, I guess, to have some of these conversations? Because this almost seems like therapy. I'm sitting here like, I gotta tell you about what now?
Right. I think the one thing that where I'm giving the most value now is really transition entrepreneurs through stages of businesses, right? What stage you're at. And our whole target is to grow business owners from 0 to 10 million. Can we put people into groups and communities? I didn't have that community, so they can be in a cohort that's like them and grow through that stage. So that's what we're doing our real work at now.
Very cool.
That's really amazing.
Yeah, that's part of Janelle's vision.
Yeah,
Mastermind groups, mastermind groups, mastermind groups.
yeah, I want to create community for entrepreneurs because a lot of times you're out here. But I mean, that's the big reason for me for why I say that even exists is to create community for entrepreneurs. Let's talk about these things that nobody wants to talk about.
Mhm.
And like we're struggling on this bus, feeling like we're on the struggle bus alone, but it turns out many of us are having the same struggles, or somebody just had it and they learn something and they can like teach others, like right, like I love that. I love the like creating a community and then creating it based on the stage of their business. That's awesome.
Business that they're in, yeah. Because how many people are in fact throwing in the towel? To your point, going back, getting a job, and I definitely want to get into this. I know we're pretty basic. I'm waiting for the alarm to go, but what I want to ask is I want to hear the stage of having that one client that essentially offered you or was paying you what you were making at that other place for 1 day's worth of work, which to me would be almost like a victory in itself. To what happened between that recognizing, hey, I don't know how to get any more business, and this idea of I need to go back and get a job to fill in the gap, or what was going on there that I guess that where was the breakthrough in that period when you consider throwing in the towel for the first time, I guess, or maybe one of the first times?
That's it right there, right? Big issue was had this client was paying me what I was making on my job, but guess what? It was my own company, no taxes coming out. So I made all this money over the year. Tax season came back. Here's the worst part. I'm filing my own tax return. Like, oh my goodness, I got a liability that I can't pay right now. What am I gonna do? That's where the transition started.
Okay, well, guys, if you want to hear the rest of that story, this man is doing his own taxes and can't pay it. You gotta tune in. You gotta tune into Overtime, guys, on Patreon. The link is in the description below. Will, thank you so much. This has been an amazing.
This has been amazing. Yeah.
Like, seriously, guys, show Will some love before we transition over. Again, if you are already subscribing with or already in our community and Patreon, then you guys know that you can go live there to see the rest of this conversation. Will, brother, thank you. Oh, this has been good. I can't wait to hear the rest of this story.
Thank you. Yes.
This has been really good. All right, so let's give Will his love. All right, guys. So tune into the rest of this on Patreon. You guys are not going to want to miss the rest of that story. And as always,
remember you deserve the good life.
Say that, guys. We'll see you guys in a couple minutes.